All right, this is still part of section 4.4, but this is just going to be more practice, more examples. So we're going to find the values of the trig functions given that the sine of theta is 4/7 and theta is in quadrant 2. I just need the secant and the cotangent. Well, if I'm in quadrant 2, I don't need to know exactly, that's going to be my theta. So sine is related to secant because sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So that means 4/7 squared plus cosine squared is 1. 16/49 equals 49/49. So cosine squared of theta is 33/49. So cosine is positive or negative square root 33/7. Well, in the second quadrant, I know all students take calculus, so that means cosine is negative. So my secant is the reciprocal of that. So the secant of my angle is negative 7 over the square root of 33. Rationalize our denominator. We get negative 7 square root 33 over 33. Our cotangent we can go straight into also, theta. We take cosine over sine. And I know both of those already. So my cosine is negative square root 33/7. And my sine is 4/7. If you've noticed by this point, those over 7s cancel, leaving me negative square root 33/4 for my cotangent. Those are my two answers. If I know the sine is negative 2/5 and cosine is greater than 0, we'll find tangent and secant. So if I think about where this would be, sine is negative, so I'm in quadrants 3 or 4. Cosine's positive, which means I'm in quadrant 4. All right, I can find tangent and secant pretty quickly here. Let's find our cosine first. Remember, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. If sine is negative 2/5, that means I can find it. I have 4/25 plus cosine squared equals 25/25, which means the cosine squared is 21/25. Square root it. We already know cosine's positive, so it's positive square root of 21/5. To get the tangent, I just take sine over cosine. So negative 2/5 over square root 21/5. Those 5's cancel, leaving me negative 2 over the square root of 21. I rationalize. I get negative 2 square root 21/21. And for my secant, secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so it is 5 over the square root of 21. Rationalize that denominator also. I get 5 square root 21/21. All right, secant is negative 3/2. Cotangent is positive. Find sine and tangent. So secant is related to cosine. So cosine's negative, meaning we're in quadrants 2 or 3. Cotangent is positive, which means tangent's positive, which means we must be in quadrant 3, which means my sine will be negative and my tangent will be positive. If I know secant, I can actually go to tangent pretty quickly. We have a rule that says 1 plus the tangent squared of theta equals secant squared of theta. So 1 plus tangent squared of theta equals negative 3/2 squared. So 1 plus tangent squared of theta equals 9/4. I'm going to subtract 1, which is 4/4. Tangent squared is 5/4. Square root it. I get square root of 5 over 2. I know it's positive because I'm in quadrant 3. And then I also need the sine. To get the sine, I would actually probably get the cosine. If the secant is negative 3 over 2, the cosine is negative 2 over 3. Then we can do sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So sine squared plus negative 2/3 squared equals 1. Sine squared plus 4/9 equals 9/9. Sine squared equals 5/9. We know that the sine is negative, so sine is negative square root 5 over 3 when we square root it. All right, some more examples. We have a point on the terminal side of theta, the 6 trig functions. We need to find r. R is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared, which is the square root of 64 plus 4, which is the square root of 68. And I believe that'll simplify. I can make it 4 times 27, which actually means I could make it 18 times 3. Wait, that didn't help me. Oh. Oh, let's pause on that. It wasn't that. 4 times 17. There we go. So r is 2 square root 17. So the sine of our angle theta is y over r. 2 over 2 square root 17. Those 2's cancel. We rationalize our denominator. We get the square root of 17 over 17. Cosine is x over r. These simplify down to a 4. Rationalize our denominator. 4 square root 17 over 17. Tangent is y over x, so 2 over 8, or 1/4. Then we need cosecant. Cosecant's the reciprocal. Take it from the very beginning. 2 square root 17 over 2. 2's cancel, leaving me just square root of 17. For the secant, take the reciprocal from the beginning. 2 square root 17 over 8, which is the square root of 17 over 4. And for cotangent, take the reciprocal. We get just 4. All right, again, this is just more and more examples for you. We start by finding r. R is the square root of negative 5 squared plus negative 1 squared, which is the square root of 25 plus 1, which is the square root of 26, which does not simplify. The sine of our angle will be negative 1 over the square root of 26. Rationalize your denominator. We get negative square root of 26 over 26. The cosine is x over r, so negative 5 over the square root of 26. Rationalize our denominator. We get negative 5 square root 26 over 26. And the tangent is y over x. Those negatives will cancel, giving me 1/5. For the cosecant, we take the reciprocal from the beginning, which makes it just negative square root of 26. For the secant, take the reciprocal from the beginning, negative square root 26 over 5. And for the cotangent, we get just 5.